Happy Sunday, everyone. I am Dr. Lisa, and this is Sunday Election Insights informing voters for the upcoming election. I am a policy nerd. I love elections. I love civic education and American history, US history, that is. And considering, what do we need to do to move ourselves forward? So, thank you for joining us today. I want to introduce myself, as some of you may know me, some not. And so, what do I read and watch? I love C SPAN. I love learning about the things that people think are boring because it's actually a lot happening. So, definitely watch C SPAN if you can. NPR, Stephen Colbert, and people like Joy Ann Reid. That's my sorrow over there. And so, I really appreciate the work that they have done to continue to highlight what's happening in the news around the world and in our communities. As I live in the state of Alabama at this time, I want to find ways of highlighting what is happening here and what are the things that you can do to make a difference. I love reading the Hill newspaper. I also attend the Hill Church. So shout out to Pastor T and all the amazing people who are doing the things to make a difference. I read the Bible, newspapers, academic articles, and books. So you'll see a number of connections, and I hope that it's helpful for you. Next piece, my experience. I was a congressional intern both in the 7th Congressional District of the state of Alabama and in DC for District 7. I'm one of the founders of Support the Vote Alabama, which we started 5 years ago in 2020 to ensure that there was a higher support for voter registration efforts in the state of Alabama. I have over a decade experience as a civics teacher and American history teacher, both in the state of Alabama and in Texas. My education spans the gamut. It includes a bachelor's of government from Smith College. I am a double Eagle, so that means I graduated twice from the American University. I have a master's in education policy and leadership and a doctorate in education policy and leadership. I hope that you will see me as a credible source, as an active supporter of your rights, not only to vote, but to be informed about who's running for office and what they're doing. So hopefully this is helpful for you. I am doing this a second time. For some reason, the recording I had earlier, the sound messed up. So I am using a different way of getting things done. I thought about it this morning and I said, you know what, maybe this is a sign I need to stop. But my rest in peace to my dearly departed pastor, Reverend Prim, he would just say, you know what, anytime there's something that's getting in your way, that means the devil's trying to stir it up because you got something good to share. So I'm going to try to share this any way I can because I've got some good stuff. I want you to hear it this morning. All right. So it is a Sunday morning, and every Sunday morning before church, when I finally got a TV in my bedroom, I would find these shows that I love to watch. I would watch PBS, the Book of Virtues, and as I got older, I would also watch Sunday Morning with Charles Osgood, and I know that those TV shows kind of inform my perception of today and also the work that I'm doing here. So I say it with that as we move forward with the Bible verses. So there are two that were heavy on my heart this morning. And there's a particular phrase from Hosea 4:6. It says, "My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Because you have rejected knowledge, I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you have forgotten the law of your God, I also will forget your children." I think it's a heavy moment because I've been in search of a church home, and shout out to Pastor T and the Hill Church. After the death of my pastor, Pastor Fred Prim, I continued to do the recordings for over a year, and that was helpful in a way where it taught me the discipline of still going. Right, even though someone's not there anymore, their work is still there and their message is still important. So that was powerful for me. And now I'm beginning to reconnect with people in a real way. And as I go back to churches, especially after the pandemic, after, we've lost so many people, what does it mean to build a church or build a community with people? Well, I'm going to tell y'all right now, if you're not reading your Bible, if you're not reading the Constitution, and if you're not in community with people who are doing those things, then we're being destroyed. And I really hope that all of you find a church home, just as I am looking and searching. I also hope that you will consider, what does it mean to show your children how to build community. So just think about that. And then next we have Proverbs 29:18. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but he that keepeth the law, happy is he. Now, I'm a woman, so I'm going to interject my pronoun, she. Where there is no vision, the people perish, but she that keepeth the law, happy is she. And so, making sure that I have a vision for my life for the next 5, 10, 15, 20, even 30 years out, considering where do I want to be? I do not want to be in a discount senior citizens facility. I want to be retired on an island watching my grandchildren live their best lives, like 30, 40 years from now, right? And so, considering what I want in my life, I've got to figure out how to plan that. I'm such a planner. I know it gets on people's nerves, but Jeremiah 29:11 is one of my favorites. And it says, of course, for I know the plans I have for you. And so, knowing that I have a plan for myself and that God is in those plans, I'm moving forward. All right. So, we're bringing it back. Election day is August 26th. It is August 26th. That is a Tuesday. We have the mayor, city council, school board, and state house on the ballot in various places. I've made this general for the state of Alabama. There are a number of municipalities that have a mayoral race, city council, school board, and of course, there are at least 2 state house representative areas that need to be voted on. So please make sure that you are showing up to the polls. Reminder: voter registration deadline is August 11th. That's tomorrow. Today is August 10th, and tomorrow you have got to make sure you go to the Secretary of State website, which I'm showing you right now. And the Secretary of State is Wes Allen. You can see him pictured here with the state of Alabama voter website. Please go there. Make sure that you register. If you are registered, make sure that your polling place is still accurate. So I don't want anyone to wake up Tuesday morning thinking that they're headed towards one place, but really it's another. I lived in Bessemer all my childhood life, and when it was time to vote, my parents would go to Dunbar Abrams. Well, recently they changed it over to a church, and so they had to make sure that they were over at a particular church. So you might be used to it because of routine, but some things have changed. So just kind of keep those things in mind. Know we are polling place. Know that you are actively on the voter rolls. So double check to make sure. Check your polling place. I'll try to have something in the next couple of days where I'm either doing a live or a connection with people who might need access to that. So the website continues to have some information. I am a screenshot queen, so this is again another screenshot sharing information about how to register. So you can submit the application online. You can download the application, print it, fill it out, and mail it to the Board of Registrars. And you can also mail your Alabama voter registration form to the Office of the Secretary of State. Please make sure that these things are completed in a timely manner so that you're able to move forward. Now, if you need these following things, there are lots of services available. We have support for absentee voting, assistance for voters with disabilities, county election officials, election information, election data, finding your elected official map. So a lot of people may know who the governor is. Right now, the governor is Kay Ivey. We will have a gubernatorial race or a governor's race next year. So that's going to change. She's the second woman to hold the office of governor for the state of Alabama. Let's find out who's going to hold it next year. Some people know who the governor is. Some people know who their mayor is. There are very few people who actually know who their city council person is or their school board. So, check that part. Make sure you know. Next, we have find your polling location, military overseas voting. So if you know someone who is on active duty, there is an opportunity for them to vote. Learning how to be a poll worker or poll worker information, provisional ballot status, vote in honor of a veteran, voter ID requirements, and of course the voter registration piece. So keep that in mind. All of these things are available online. Please make sure that you use them to the best of your ability. All right, so let's consider what's on the ballot. What's on the ballot? We've got the mayor, city council, school board, state house, and your community. I'm being a little cheeky with this because, of course, we know your community is not necessarily a spot on the ballot, but your community needs you to vote. Your community needs you to be an informed voter. And so I want you to consider, what does it mean to be a mayor, city council person, school board representative, and state house representative? All of these things are essential. Now, you might be paying attention to social media, and I'm telling you right now, I was both inspired and horrified by what I've seen on social media when it comes to this election cycle. I think it is a slippery slope to pay attention to trash talk and not pay attention to the skill set. So please consider, what does it mean to be informed versus entertained? I want to inform you. I want to support you. I might be a little funny here and there because that's just my personality. And really and truly, I would love to work with Shonda Rhimes. Shonda Rhimes has done an incredible job of kind of teaching and educating, right? So like teaching and entertaining. Because when I look at Grey's Anatomy, I tell you, I am the girl in the 8th grade class who would have gotten an F for trying to dissect the frog. But for some reason, I am able to watch Grey's Anatomy. It's not necessarily because of the quote unquote skill set, because of the drama, right? And then she wrote Scandal, and I was so engaged with all the different ways she was able to problem solve. Now, when she started being the problem, that was a whole situation. But listen, Shonda Rhimes, hire me. I want to be in the writers' room. The next time you create something that is a policy based drama, I am here for it, and I love it. And so when I think about the mayor, right, we can consider that you can look at all the trash talk that's being placed out in the various cities, because it is happening everywhere. It's not just in your city, it's happening everywhere. But for the city council, the school board, and state house, you can pay attention to the trash talk, or you can pay attention to the skill set, just as you might with a Shondaland example. So we talked about Grey's Anatomy and Scandal, and there's so many others. She's such a great writer. But there's an opportunity for you to consider, what does it mean to know what they're supposed to do? Let's find out. So the mayor is really there are three branches of government when we talk about federal, when we talk about state, and of course when we get to the municipal. Now there's not necessarily a judge piece there, right? Though judges are going to be state and federal, but that's more so dealing with your police. That's dealing with your crime support. But we're focusing in on the mayor here. The mayor kind of acts as the executive branch. They're also seen as the CEO of the city, and so the mayor oversees daily operations, municipal employees, contracts, and bill payments. You'll notice that I'm reading this information. I want to name this because I've gotten the feedback several times over, y'all. People don't read. People tell me that, and I know it. I know people don't read. But guess what? My prayer is that the people who are in my viewership learn to read, learn to pay attention, and learn to focus on things. So I know I did a pause there, but I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page as to why I'm giving you all this detail, all this information, and all these words. There are people who won't give it to you because they want to change the narrative. They want to make it as easy for you as possible to believe them. I want it to be as accessible as possible to be informed. That's my purpose. So without further ado, I'm going to keep reading. The mayor oversees daily operations, municipal employees, contracts, and bill payments. In towns or cities under 12,000 residents, presides over council meetings, votes, introduces measures, and debates. In cities over 12,000, does not vote but can veto council actions. This can be overridden by a 2/3 vote from the council. Appoints most municipal officers unless state law gives appointment power to the city council, and removes appointed officers for cause with hearings required. So you cannot remove someone without a hearing. Prepares financial reports, recommends budgets, approves expenditures, and executes contracts with council authorization. And then finally, ensures contracts are faithfully performed. So this source is the Alabama League of Municipalities. My prayer is that as I share sources with you, you actually go to them and learn more information. So please visit the Alabama League of Municipalities. Next, we have the city council. The city council is kind of our mini Congress. This is not going to be a whole lot of people on there. Instead, you're going to look at the different districts that you have. You might have 7 districts, you might have 10 districts, you might have 5 districts, but you've got someone who is representing your district on the city level. Make sure you know who that person is. You might know that the governor is Kay Ivey. You might know that your mayor is fill in the blank. But who is your city council person? That's someone you need to know. So we have the city council controls finances, property, taxes, services, and municipal policy. They act only as a body in legally convened meetings. Individual members have no authority. They create offices by ordinance and appoint certain positions like clerk, treasurer, or other designated officers. They may remove officers, not employees, for cause. So you cannot remove someone who is on the payroll. They can remove someone who is an officer. They approve budgets, appropriations, expenditures, and contracts. And they can override the mayor's veto in most cases. This information is also provided by the Alabama League of Municipalities. Then we have the school board. School board members are unpaid volunteers who must balance careers and family with the demands of overseeing a public. There's more information to this, but I wanted to pause right here because when we look at school board, we might consider the fact that a lot of them, and this is coming from U.S. News, a lot of the school board members, they are volunteers. They are not being paid to be there, but they're using their time, their talent, and their expertise to make decisions on behalf of the public and to support the school systems. So when it's time for things to change at a school, you may not necessarily look at the principal. You may not even look at the superintendent, but you will look at the school board to see what policies do they have in place, how much money have they budgeted for particular things like field trips, athletics, teachers, resources such as technology and arts. If you want something to change in your community, make sure you're going to those school board meetings demanding that there are changes. Next, we have, in general, all school boards have 3 major responsibilities: developing the annual budget to run the school system. If you want something to change, make sure you say it before they put it in the budget. If you want something to change, make sure you say something before they put it in the budget. Setting school policies, and hiring and evaluating the superintendent. This is directly from the U.S. News as a source, so please be sure to look at what is actually happening in your community and finding out who the school board members are for you. Our next piece deals with the State House. Now, this is general information that I got from inform.alabama.gov. And so it reads as follows: the Alabama House of Representatives, the composition, or it is composed of 105 members, each representing roughly 40,000 people. And they have a term of 4 years. Their qualifications include at least 21 years old, Alabama citizen for at least 3 years, and a resident of a district for at least a year before the election. I want to pause here to give you some context. As an intern, as a former teacher, I'm telling you right now, there are people who are devoted to serving. I want to applaud them. I want to congratulate them. I want to thank them for everything that they have done in our communities. But there are also people who will move to your district just because it is easier for them to get elected. Now, I want you to remember that there are people who will move to your district, there are people who will move to your city, and they will run for office because it will be easier for them to get elected. Because, of course, they can see who's reading, they can see who's paying attention, and they can see that you can be easily persuaded. Decide amongst yourselves if you're going to be the easily persuaded, if you're going to be gullible, if you're not going to pay attention to what's actually happening in our policies and in our budgets. If you are living in a space in that way, you need to look around and decide, is it my time to run for office? Is it my time to make a difference? Is it my time to up the standard and change and move the bar from bare minimum to excellence where it needs to be? Because our children are watching. They are watching the social media. Every time I turn on social media and I see that there are family members, there are kids, the kids are in the room. Their kids are in the room when they're watching the lives and everything else. So just keep that in mind. Um, so qualifications, we've already talked about that. Leadership, when it comes to the House of Representatives, you're going to have someone named the Speaker of the House. They're going to preside over the meetings. They're going to oversee the meetings. You have to have a quorum of about 53 members. So keep in mind this part, right? So if you have 105 people, you only need 53 of them to show up so that you can have a quorum and vote. If your representative is not showing up on a regular basis, you need to recall them. You need to have a petition and they need to be recalled. If they're not showing up for their job, just like there are some jobs, there's some opportunities. If they say you have 3 days of no show, right, and then you get fired. Well, let's look at that for the House of Representatives. Let's look at that for mayor. Let's look at that for city council. If the person is not showing up for their job, are they actually representing you? So make sure that you're actually electing people who are going to show up for you, to show up and represent you, and speak to the issues that are important to your community. When it comes to special voting, there are some key requirements. So we can't just change the Constitution whenever we like. However, if we do want to make some changes, for constitutional amendments, there are 63 votes are required. So keep that in mind. Appropriations to non-government organizations, that's a 2/3 of all members. And then we have revenue bills, must originate in the House, similar to Congress, right? So there we go. Now, this was the cheeky part earlier. I was like, what's on the ballot? Your community. When we look at communities, I've heard so many things on social media, and I really want to name this. There's a difference between being informed and being entertained. I talked earlier about Shonda Rhimes and the work that she's done to kind of highlight what's happening in medicine, all the advancements, all these really cool things, right? But also keeping you entertained with the different pieces of people's lives. What you're seeing on social media for the election might just be trash talk. It might just be trash talk. It might be that one candidate is opposing another candidate and they're just trying to, pick on them. There are other things where we can also look at, what are you doing in the community? Whether you're an elected official or not, what are you doing on a regular basis to serve the community? Because you don't have to run for office to serve. I really hope that resonates with somebody. So, beautification. When it comes to beautification, think about the things that you have in your community and what you want to do better. Growing up, I was able to live in Bessemer and, of course, travel to Birmingham frequently because that's where my home church is located. Shout out to First Baptist Graymont. I would travel down that freeway with my family, see the billboards for Miles College. I would see, beautiful Fairfield, passing through Midfield, getting off on Arkadelphia to Birmingham Southern, and being able to see all these beautiful houses. And I would see also like the beautification award signs. People truly had pride. And I hope that that pride exists in your community. So start with beautifying your own home. Maybe, plant some flowers, clean the steps, fold the clothes, wash the dishes. Do something to beautify your own house or apartment, and then reach out to your neighbors to see what you can do. My neighbor recently decided to put lights out for us because it would be easier for us to, have lights on the path. That was very sweet of him. We didn't have to wait for the apartment complex. It's something that he decided to do for us. Shout out to him. Next, we have environmental justice. Well, we want to also consider, you want businesses to come in, but at what cost? Will it add to pollution? How will it change the traffic flow? How is it going to impact trash pickup? Those things are an essential piece. We also want to tie in safety, crime, and labor all together because if people have jobs that pay well enough, then you don't have to worry about poverty. When we have to start talking about poverty and homelessness, we're also looking at the ways in which people try to keep themselves off the streets. And it can be illegal. Let's find ways of making sure everybody has a job that is legal, that is paying them what they need so that they're able to live their life and take care of their family. I'm going to leave it at that. Now, when it comes to our senior citizen support, There are some things that the government should be doing, and there are some things that you can do as well. So consider, how can you help little Miss Susie when she's going to the Carter Jones grocery store? What can you do to help Mr. Bill when he's at Walmart? Does he need help picking something up? Does he need help putting something in the basket? Does he need help taking things into the house? So if you have the capacity with your nonprofit organization, or maybe even your church group, organize a senior day at the grocery store where you are accompanying a senior citizen who's in support, who needs support. I recently had a conversation with an older lady, and she was, a very active 80-year-old who was advocating for the things that senior citizens need, including support at the grocery stores, going to the pharmacist and their medical visits, but also technology, because we have a number of grandparents who are raising their grandchildren and they don't have access to technology. There are a number of school systems who've decided they're not going to have books anymore. It's just laptops, and so it's making it harder for family members to support the students in getting their homework done because nothing's really on paper anymore. And so you have to consider, how are we taking care of the children, and how are we taking care of our elders? Last two pieces here, dealing with recreational activities and Chamber of Commerce. Make sure that you are spending time at your local rec, whether it's near you or possibly in another area. You might be able to purchase a membership that's going to help that space stay alive. And of course, the Chamber of Commerce, supporting your small local owned businesses as well as the larger businesses that might be coming in. Find ways of connecting with them, invite them to college fairs, invite them to job fairs, invite them to do more in your community. Now, what do we need from you? We need you to serve. I can't stress enough that you don't have to run for office to serve the community. You can serve in your own capacity. You can get with a couple of friends, decide that you're going to do a community service project, and move forward. There's a number of things happening. August 11th, there's August 23rd, there's the Walk for Education at City Walk. Make sure you go there. Support UNCF. There are some other events that are happening in the Birmingham area. The Labor Day Classic is happening for the very first time. Make sure you go and support that. We want to make sure things are happening. We need to support them. Next, pay attention. Pay attention not only to what's being entertaining, like the trash talk on social media, but also being informed about, oh, snap, has anybody mentioned that the voter registration deadline is tomorrow on your social media page? Guess what? It's time. You need to register to vote. If you have not registered to vote, make sure you do. If you are registered to vote, make sure that you check that you're still on the roster. That means you need to check your polling place. If it says that you are inactive, then you need to do the work of registering again or updating your registration. Next, please read and be informed about some key things that are going on in our communities. If you do not do this, then it's going to be easy to take advantage of you. Things will continue to change because the people who are reading are making the changes. Have you ever played a game with somebody who was really smart and decided they wanted to take advantage of you? Maybe it was Monopoly. Maybe it was Uno. Maybe it was poker. Maybe it was a fill in the blank game. But they knew your tales, and they knew that they could take advantage of you, and they did exactly that. Consider that for life. Consider that you need to learn the instructions. Very simple. Monopoly. Learn to read the instructions. Find out how to play the game. Find out where you need to get property and stay out of jail. Okay? If more people play Monopoly, the world will be a very different place. There are a few other games that I'll suggest in future episodes. I love games, and I'll talk about that another time. Finally, speak up. If you are serving, if you are paying attention and you are reading, then it's also time for you to speak up, because there are not enough people who are reading and speaking up. There are not enough people who are paying attention and speaking up. And there are not enough people who are serving and speaking up. I oftentimes see people focus on being a critic over being a creator. Learn how to create the solution as opposed to criticizing the fact that there is a problem. In my doctoral program, we constantly heard this phrase, and I want to credit the author, but I'm just, using it in a general sense for my doctoral program, that the people who are closest to the problem oftentimes have the solution. If you know where the potholes are, Let's get to work. If you know where the crime is, let's get to work. If you know where there needs to be a beautification project, let's get to work. If you see that there are dilapidated buildings in your area and you want to see some changes, let's get to work. Let's get to work together so that our community can be better. Oftentimes, I hear people say, look at what they have over there. Look at what they have over there. Look at what they have over there. They got these resources. They got these opportunities. They have this, this, and this. Well, let's also pay attention to how much they're paying in property taxes. Hmm. Crickets? Okay. Let's consider the fact that we need to build and support our own. Oftentimes, the grass is greener because somebody decided to water it. Let's decide to water ourselves. Let's decide to take care of our communities. That's a word right there. So, going back to my meditation because it is Sunday. We got to have a Sunday meditation. I want to read these again for you. Meditation: my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge because you have rejected knowledge. I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you have forgotten the law of your God, I also will forget your children. Hosea 4 and 6. That's a tough word because what does it mean for people to forget your own children? You haven't been coming to the church, but you're showing up finally because you're running for office. Or you haven't been coming to church, but you need some money, so you're finally showing up. Mm. The church needs you every Sunday. The church needs you at Bible study. The church needs you at choir rehearsal, and the church needs you on the usher board. Not everybody needs to be the pastor. Same thing with our government. The community needs people who are doing the service work. Maybe you are doing the beautification. Maybe you are feeding the homeless. Maybe you are reading to the children. Not everybody has to be the mayor, and not everybody has to run for office to make a difference. Final word here: Proverbs 29 and 18. Where there is no vision, the people perish. But she that keepeth the law, happy is she. So I'm looking at my life and the vision that I have, and it's going to include Sunday election insights. My prayer, my hope is that I'll be able to continue to do this. There is a void in the state of Alabama when it comes to election coverage and access to critical information and research, and I want to see a way of filling that void. I hope to work with sponsors and partners, whoever like to work with me, in support of making sure more people know about democracy and civic education. This is Dr. Lisa, in love and in community. God bless.